Let's talk about three-dimensional space. When we go to 3 dimensions, then we're going to have 3 coordinates, x, y, and z. Now, x is a distance from the yz plane to P. So if this is x is going to be the distance from this yz plane out. Y is the distance from the xz plane. Let's see, where's y? Y is this way. And z is the distance from the xy plane to the point. If I were to graph a series of points, x, y, z, first of all, you see why it's very important to label your coordinate systems here. Most graphs that I've ever dealt with, the z is coming up out of the paper, and so we draw it like this. So you need to be very careful, and obviously these are some challenging ones to draw, but when I look at the distance between 2 points, you can see this is very similar to the Pythagorean theorem. This is the square root of the difference in x squared plus the difference in the y squared plus the difference in the z squared. So we're just basically adding this third component to the distance formula. Similarly, we have some guidelines for vectors in space. If u and v are vectors and c is a scalar, then these two are equal if and only if the x components are equal, the y components are equal, and the z components are equal. To find a component form between 2 points, then you take the difference of the x, the difference of the y, and the difference of the z. The length is, of course, the square root of v1 squared plus v2 squared plus v3 squared. And for the unit vector, you do the exact same thing. So this is the component form divided by the magnitude of the vector. When you add vectors, you add the x's, you add the y's, you add the z's. And when you multiply, of course, you distribute that constant to all 3 terms. So if I want the distance between the points, 2, minus 1, 3, and 1, 0, negative 2. All right. So the distance is the square root of 2 minus 1. Do you see it? Because I'm squaring, it doesn't matter which one I take first. Plus negative 1 minus 0 squared plus 3 minus negative 2 squared. I want to point out a couple things. You see how I always put the minus sign even when there's a 0 there? It kind of keeps me straight. So this is the square root of 2 minus 1 squared. It's 1. Plus 1 plus 5 squared is 25. So this is the square root of 27.